Welcome to the John and Heidi Show podcast.
John and Heidi.
Here's John and Heidi.
Today is a special day, Heidi. Do you know what today is?
What is today, John?
I thought you'd never ask. Let's do the whole darn weekend. April the 20th, Saturday, is National Cheddar Fries Day. Oh, that sounds good. National Look-alike Day. National Lima Bean Respect Day. National Pineapple Upside Down Cake Day. And National Auctioneers Day. I probably should have said that a lot faster, though. Also, the 21st, Sunday, National Kindergarten Day. National Chocolate Covered Cashews Day. National Yellow Bat Day. And, something else. Oh, it's Easter!
Oh,
yeah, Easter
that's
weekend.
right.
Yeah. Coming up here on the Easter program, going to be visiting with Jordan Goodman. He is America's Money Answers Man. We're not going to be chatting about Easter. We're going to be talking about how to hopefully help you get your financial life in order. He's got the website moneyanswers.com, and if you ever have questions, you can go there. And then in the show notes, I'll throw a link to all the things we talk about today as well. It's always a wealth of information, and you can learn more in the show notes at john@heidishow.com. Jordan Goodman coming up in a bit.
The inventor of Rip It gloves has been a drywall guy for decades. He was trying to find gloves that worked for him and his crew, but nothing was quite right. So he went out and created some. Rip It gloves fit firm in your hand and protect your hands, but still allow you to use a touchscreen. Professional athletes love the extra grip Rip It gloves gives them. Painters, roofers, contractors, but also motorcycle and horseback riders. See why everyone loves Rip It gloves at ripitgloves.com. Use promo code radio to save 25%. That's RIPIT gloves.com, promo code radio.
Now, surveys and studies and such, brought to you by BetterCreditCards.net. Chinese scientists are studying a group of monkeys who were injected with a gene that would make them act more human-like. Why are we doing this?
I think that's a bad idea.
Yeah, why are we messing with monkeys? It's also like the people that are creating robots. Hey, we're creating robots that could kill the human race. Why?
Exactly.
Why are we doing that? That doesn't make any sense. I mean, have you not seen all these movies that are future-based? Terminator, RoboCop. I mean,
exactly.
There's a lot of movies that doesn't go well, and I'm sure there's at least one where there's a monkey thing like this that didn't go well. Just not a great plan, in my opinion. Again, surveys and studies and such, brought to you by BetterCreditCards.net. Credit cards, they can be trouble. About 12 years ago, we did a debt snowball program and got rid of our credit cards. We were debt-free except for our house. It was awesome. But over the course of the next decade, our credit score went down. That sounds weird, but they need open accounts to give you a score. Our lower score made our insurance rates go up. We decided to get a credit card to help with that. We just pay it off every month. If you want a better credit card, check out BetterCreditCards.net. They'll help you compare all the different cards to get the best one for you. That's BetterCreditCards.net. And this is Your Brain on Drugs, brought to you by Time4Rehab.com. A drunk and shirtless Naples, Florida man was arrested at an Olive Garden when he was shoving spaghetti into his mouth. Okay, 32-year-old Ben Paget was causing a disturbance at the Olive Garden. He was sitting on a bench near the front door, shirtless and shoveling spaghetti into his mouth with his hands.
Oh, that's classy.
There was a strong smell of alcohol coming from his general vicinity. He was asking people for money as they walked up to the door, and then he threatened an employee who asked him to stop. He said, "I could beat your..." Well, I won't say the rest. It wasn't nice, we'll say that. Employee went back in, called the police. It says here he followed him back in and then asked the employee... I'm not even going to say that
I don't
either.
know how they could call the
Not
cops
good.
on the guy. Their motto is, when you're here, your family. And who doesn't have relatives like
Drunk
that?
uncle sitting out front asking for money. He was charged with disorderly intoxication and resisting an officer without violence. So there you go. It's a bizarre story. I've got all of the details in the show notes at johnandheidishow.com. Now, big screen, little screen, brought to you by ChannelSurferTV.com. HBO said the final season of Game of Thrones, the premiere, this was last weekend, it broke records for the series and broke records for HBO. 17.4 million viewers tuned in to watch. Now, I remember reading a report last week that said they were estimating 30 million viewers. So I'm not saying that 17.4 is bad, but that's half about what they were expecting.
Said it was going to be. I've never watched that show once, and I have no
People
interest.
are getting upset at people like you. On Facebook, everybody that's posting, "I've never seen Game of Thrones," people are like, "Do you deserve an award for not seeing it?" Shut up. Who cares? Like, everybody's getting violent about it.
Why are we talking? I mean, I just feel like every time someone wants to talk to me about it, you have to say, I've not seen it. So how else do you respond?
I don't know. Cher is back in the news. Cher is being cheered by people from the right wing after tweeting about...
I read this tweet.
She says,
at first I thought there was no way this came from Cher.
She said, why are we taking in so many illegal immigrants? We can't even take care of our own citizens.
Absolutely.
So,
And
I've
she's
got a link to that.
100% right.
I've got a link to that and all of that stuff. And it's in the show notes at johnandheidishow.com. Thanks for listening to Big Screen, Little Screen.
Join us for a fun week in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic for the 3rd annual 80s in the Sand. We've been there the last 2 years. In addition to making a bunch of awesome new friends, we had so much fun meeting 80s actors and musicians. 80s in the Sand takes over the entire resort, so you'll mingle with them at the pools and the restaurants too. We'd love to have you join us. See the amazing lineup featuring Sammy Hagar and many more at radiotravelgroup.com. Save $200 per person for first-time guests at radiotravelgroup.com.
Now, your scoop of the day brought to you by BetterCreditCards.net. If you love bread as much as Oprah loves bread, there's a must-have for you on Amazon, Heidi. Have you seen this silly thing?
No, I have not.
It is a bread pillow. I'm
are you
afraid to mention it
kidding?
because I got a feeling we're going to probably have some.
No,
It
I
looks
don't
like a
want one.
gigantic baguette. And it's a realistic-looking loaf, 3 different sizes. You can get a 12-inch baguette,
Oh,
a
that's
24-inch pillow baguette, or a 32-inch pillow baguette. I know somebody wants one. I'm going to link to it in the show notes so you can find it. Should forward that to the weird gift of the day people.
Yeah, really, you should.
In the United Kingdom, a 60-year-old man stabbed his 63-year-old brother during a heated argument that happened in the kitchen over a can of peaches.
Of course.
The brother who was stabbed was treated for a stab wound to his arm and his shoulder blade. Police say, believe it or not, the brothers had been drinking.
No.
I know, it's a shock.
No.
I know most people probably thought they were solving the world's problems right before the stabbing, but no, they were drinking instead. I've never been involved in a stabbing at a family gathering.
Me either.
But I did witness a fight over mustard one time.
Yeah, you've told
My
me
father
that.
and a man who I thought was our cousin, the whole time growing up, we always referred to him as our cousin. At his funeral, I said, so how are we related? And his wife said, we're not related at all. So I found out that we're not even related. So my cousins growing up, turns out they weren't even cousins. But this argument that my father and our family friend apparently had was over whether or not mustard needed to be refrigerated. And if you could eat mustard that stayed in a camper all winter long the next year. And my dad said, I'll just buy mustard. We don't need to use that. And Fred was like, it's fine. And they got in an argument that we ended up riding home. My mother had to drive like 2 hours to come pick us up because we
And
left.
It would have been fine, by the way. The
Probably
mustard
would have been.
fine.
But my dad was like, mustard is like 50 cents. Back then it was.
Yeah.
He even gave my brother, he's like, here's money. Go to the store, which you could see from the camper. Go over there, grab some mustard. And there was an argument, and my dad was a big guy, and Fred was a big guy. 2 fat guys fighting over mustard. I still can't get that thought out of my mind. I was like, wow. But at least they didn't stab one another. These
This
brothers.
is where you get your stubbornness from,
It
by
is.
the way.
Absolutely it is. I'm not saying I don't. Federal judge denied bail for the Chinese woman who was trying to enter Mar-a-Lago, Trump's Mar-a-Lago illegally. It says here, the actions of the 33-year-old lady. It says she was up to something nefarious, and there is an extreme risk of flight if she were released. If convicted, Zhang faces up to 5 years for lying to federal agents and for trying to enter a restricted area at that resort. So I still don't quite understand what she was doing, and I don't know. Maybe nobody does. I have no clue. You ready for one last story here?
Sure.
We might actually have time for 2. A video has gone viral of a South African parliament member throwing a chair at another, and then it turned into all of them throwing chairs at one another during a heated argument on live TV. So when you think about how sometimes you watch what happens in Congress in the United States and you think, wow, what a zoo. At least they're not throwing chairs at one another.
Yeah.
Yet. You never know. And one last story. This will be the last one. We don't usually talk about sports around here, but I'm going to talk about sports, Heidi, because the Philadelphia 76ers fined 2 players who were caught looking at their cell phone during the game last Saturday. It was a playoff game against the Nets, and they were sitting there on their phone the whole time, playing on the phone, and they got fined for that. I think
What
that's
kind
a good
of a
idea.
fine?
I don't know. It doesn't say. Whatever the fine was, I think that's good. You guys are getting paid to play. So even if you're not on the court, you're getting paid. You're at your job.
Right.
You don't just sit, Heidi, put your phone down. What are you doing? Just kidding. She wasn't really on her phone. At least not this time. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show.
Do you have a credit card? Is it the very best credit card? Many people get their credit card as a response to an offer that was mailed to you. These are typically not the best cards. Check the fine print for the fees and interest. We have a website that compares many different cards being offered so you can find the one that's the best fit for you. If you'd like to find a better credit card, we'd love to help at bettercreditcards.net. There's no obligation. Just click and compare to see if we can get you a better credit card at bettercreditcards.net.
Thank you so much for listening to the John and Heidi Show. We have a guest that we talk to about once a month. We reach out to Jordan Goodman. He is America's Money Answers Man. We talk about all kinds of financial things. Jordan, how are you, sir?
Great to be with you again, John.
Always good to visit with you. You've literally written the book on this topic. You've got multiple books out. How many different books do you have right now that you've written?
13.
So you've got quite a few. And today, we talked a little bit ahead of time. We're going to chat about interest rates and how this affects mortgages. And I guess it makes a big impact, doesn't it?
Well, it does. And here we are in the spring selling season, and mortgage rates are down to their lowest levels in about 2.5 years. What happened was the Federal Reserve came into this year having raised rates 4 times in 2018, and it looked like they were going to raise them 1, maybe 2 more times in 2019. But the stock market fell sharply, and inflation has stayed relatively low. So in March, they said, we're not going to change interest rates at all for the rest of this year, which was kind of a bit of a surprise to the markets.
Yeah.
And took that threat away, and interest rates immediately dropped. The 10-year Treasury, which is kind of the benchmark Treasury, had been about 2.9, something like that, went down to about 2.3, 2.4 in a pretty short period of time, which is a pretty big move. That brought mortgage rates down with it because the 30-year mortgage is tied to that 10-year Treasury. So the 30-year fixed-rate mortgage is now down to just about 4%, 4.25, something in that range. It had been over 5% earlier in 2018. And then the 15-year mortgage is about 3.5%. So again, really, really low interest rates. So I think it's going to be really a good season for people looking for homes or refinancing their mortgages.
So when it comes to that right there, refinancing. So if you bought a home maybe last year, does it make sense to refinance, or how long do you suppose it should be? And I suppose maybe it depends on what interest rate you signed up at and what it is now, I suppose.
Right. So the existing interest rate, I would say, should be 4.75 or higher to make sense looking at refinancing. A website that can do it for you is youcanrefi.com, youcanrefi.com. They look around the country to get you the best possible deal. If you were, say, at 4.75, and now you could get 4, or even better if you can get that 15-year at 3.5, the payments may be a little bit higher, but you save 15 years of paying on interest. So that would really be a good thing, John, to refinance your existing mortgage. And then as far as buying a home, either an existing home or a new home, if you could lock in close to 4%, that would be a really, really good thing longer term. There's a mortgage out there called the Automatic Rate Cut Mortgage, or ARC Loan. The website for that, arcloan.com, ARCLOAN.com. When rates go down, it automatically goes down by 0.25 point or more. When rates go up, it doesn't go up. So it's kind of a one-way street in your favor. I got one originally back in 2001 at 10%. It went down to 3% as interest rates kept falling.
Oh, wow.
So that's a good thing. So, if you get one today in the 4.25 range, and if rates fall even further, it'll benefit you. But if rates go up, it won't affect you at all negatively. So that might help some of your folks as well, John. Again, arcloan.com, ARCLOAN.com to get an ARC loan. So those are two specific things they could do to take advantage of these lower rates.
The ARC loan is kind of the opposite of an adjustable rate mortgage because those always seem to just go up, but this would actually only adjust if it goes down.
Correct. Every 6 months, they take a look. If rates have dropped by 0.25 point or more from where you were 6 months ago, it automatically goes down and doesn't go back up again. That's correct. So it's an adjustable, only one-way street in your favor.
That's really cool. I've got a link to both of these things in our show notes for today. And then also, let's talk about at least one of your books. Is there a specific book that you have that may kind of tie into this topic as well?
Sure. It's called Master Your Debt. And I talk about mortgages and credit scores. Another strategy we've talked about before is what's called mortgage optimization, which allows you to pay your mortgage off much, much faster using a home equity line of credit, what's called a HELOC. A website to find out more about that is truthinequity.com. So there are lots of strategies out there that can help people, and these are the best of times right now, John, when you get mortgage rates this low.
Very nice. I've got a link to the refi site, the ARC loan site, the Truth and Equity site, and also directly to Master Your Debt. So all of those things you'll find in our show notes for today. Jordan, thank you so much for taking the time to visit.
Always glad to help, and always glad to get emails from your listeners at moneyanswers.com.
And I'll throw a link to that site, too. We're going to make it really simple. Again, Jordan Goodman, he is America's Money Answers man. He's a wealth of knowledge on this topic, and we absolutely appreciate him taking the time to chat with us at least once a month. And I've got a link to all of the info that we talked about today in the show notes for today at johnandheidishow.com.
The inventor of Rip It Gloves has been a drywall guy for decades. He was trying to find gloves that worked for him and his crew, but nothing was quite right. So he went out and created some. Rip It Gloves fit firm in your hand and protect your hands, but still allow you to use a touchscreen. Professional athletes love the extra grip Rip It Gloves gives them. Painters, roofers, contractors, but also motorcycle and horseback riders. See why everyone loves Rip It Gloves at ripitgloves.com. Use promo code radio to save 25%. That's RIPIT gloves.com, promo code radio.
Fun fact for you, Heidi.
What's that, John?
The largest baby to be born weighed 15 pounds, 5 ounces.
Okay.
That's the largest baby on record. So if you know that you weighed more than that, you're an even bigger baby. I was devastated to find out. My mother told me when I was a kid that I was like 8 pounds, 1 ounce when I was born. Then I found my birth certificate, and I was 6 pounds, 3 ounces.
Why did that
My
devastate
brother
you?
Joe was 8 pounds, 1 ounce. I was devastated because I was
She
like,
mixed you up.
wait a minute. You don't even know me, Mom.
Wow.
It's not
After
a big-
6 kids.
It's not a big deal.
Those
It's like, I don't
facts
know.
all get jumbled up.
One of you was something, and you seem to be a big baby, so it was probably you. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show. Credit cards, they can be trouble. About 12 years ago, we did a debt snowball program and got rid of our credit cards. We were debt-free except for our house. It was awesome. But over the course of the next decade, our credit score went down. That sounds weird, but they need open accounts to give you a score. Our lower score made our insurance rates go up. We decided to get a credit card to help with that. We just pay it off every month. If you want a better credit card, check out bettercreditcards.net. They'll help you compare all the different cards to get the best one for you. That's bettercreditcards.net. Now, fear this. Time for fun with phobias. Heidi, you ready for this one?
I'm ready.
Hyleophobia. Hyelo phobia. Hyleophobia.
I don't know.
The fear of glass. What?
Oh.
I could see the fear of getting cut by glass, but just the fear of glass?
Huh.
Hyleophobia. Today's fun with phobias.
Join us for a fun week in Punta Cana, Dominican Republic for the 3rd annual 80s in the Sand. We've been there the last 2 years. In addition to making a bunch of awesome new friends, we had so much fun meeting 80s actors and musicians. 80s in the Sand takes over the entire resort, so you'll mingle with them at the pools and the restaurants too. We'd love to have you join us. See the amazing lineup featuring Sammy Hagar and many more at radiotravelgroup.com. Save $200 per person for first-time guests at radiotravelgroup.com.
Now, some weird news brought to you by WeirdGiftOfTheDay.com. Here's the headline. Man writes his own obituary. 3 words long. What do you think it was?
I don't know. No, I don't know. What is it?
I am dead. That was his
Okay.
obituary. The latest man to write his own obituary kept things about as short as possible. It simply read, I am dead. The 89-year-old man from Germany gave his funeral home instructions before he died last month, and the funeral home followed through, and they published the 3-word obit in 2 different newspapers, and he's made global news.
I bet he had a good sense of humor.
Yeah. So Heidi has written her own obituary. She has like 15 different scenarios in how she died, and every one of them is more crazy than the next. Heidi Small died pulling a child out of a burning bus full of zombie clowns. I'm like, that's not how you're... Well, you might. That could be. All right. This is today's weird news. Thanks for listening to the John and Heidi Show.
John and Heidi.
Now your moment of duh, brought to you by FunkyMonkeyShirts.com. A Michigan man is seeking more than $86,000 from his parents in civil court for them allegedly throwing out his large pornography collection. Says here, the names of the son and the parents were withheld. I don't know why they wouldn't want that in the news. This family rift began in October of 2016 when this man moved back in with his mom and dad in Michigan, Grand Havens, Michigan. He moved in after a divorce. And when he came home, he brought what his mother called a smut collection. And he says it was worth $29,000.
I sincerely doubt that.
Less than a year later, the guy moved to Indiana. And when he left a bunch of stuff at his parents' property. And they cleaned it up. And they said, they told him they were going to destroy the porn collection. Anyway, they did. When it was all said and done, it says, believe it or not, the one reason why I destroyed your porn was for your own mental and emotional health. That's what the mom said. And I agree. I mean, $29,000? What in the world are you doing, man?
There's no way it was
I don't know.
I don't
That's
know.
crazy.
That's insane.
It's a bizarre story, and I've got a link to it if you want to read all about it. I don't know why you would, but if you do, it's in the show notes at johnandheidishow.com.
Do you have a credit card? Is it the very best credit card? Many people get their credit card as a response to an offer that was mailed to you. These are typically not the best cards. Check the fine print for the fees and interest. We have a website that compares many different cards being offered so you can find the one that's the best fit for you. If you'd like to find a better credit card, we'd love to help at bettercreditcards.net. There's no obligation. Just click and compare to see if we can get you a better credit card at bettercreditcards.net.
Now, these three things. Heidi, what do these three things have in common? A pocket watch, DNA, and McDonald's. What do they all have? And it's not just McDonald's. Any franchise would have this. So, a pocket watch. What does it hang on? DNA.
Chain.
Yes,
Okay.
Chains. They all have chains.
I was
Pocket
thinking
watch,
numbers
DNA,
in my head. I was thinking,
McDonald's.
well, numbers.
Oh, yeah,
okay,
they'd be
they all
good,
have.
too. Could be. It's going to do it for these three things.
John and Heidi.
This portion of the John and Heidi Show is brought to you by the John and Heidi Show. That sounds kind of funny, but it's true. Go to your local radio station and ask them to start carrying the John and Heidi Show. Here's the best part. They can carry the show for free. They play a couple commercials, but it doesn't cost them anything every month. So if you know a radio station that could use a little bit of help, send them our way. Send them to johnandheidishow.com. Again, johnandheidishow.com. We would love to do a radio program in your community. Then you could listen to the podcast and listen to us on the radio.
John and Heidi.
We always like to wrap things up, and it always is a great way to wrap things up with good news. And we have some good news, and we needed some good news. This was really actually very sad news this week, and it was so sad that it was during Holy Week, you know, leading up to Easter weekend, and the Notre Dame Cathedral burned down.
Yes, that was so sad.
It was just devastating.
Did they ever
terrible? So here's
say what caused it?
I don't know. I honestly
haven't heard that. If they have,
I'm not looking at a story about that. What I'm looking at is this story, which is the good news. The good news is a French billionaire. He's pledging $450 million to help rebuild this cathedral.
Wow.
It says here it's a couple of billionaires. So the thing that's interesting, the one is the chairman of Kering, the parent company of Gucci. He announced that he and his father would donate $100 million of their family investment company, and then other people stepped up. And some of these people are like rivals, which is crazy. So there's one company that, you know, they rival, they compete with each other, and they said, hey, you know what, that was really cool of our competitor to do that. We're going to do it too. We're going to donate. So now it's up to $450 million, and I think that is fantastic. So it's terrible that it happened. It's terrible that the place burned down. But how cool is it? On the darkest nights is when the stars really come out to shine. And this was really terrible that that happened. But boy, we've got people stepping up to the plate saying, you know what? We're going to rebuild that thing. So how cool is that? And to have rivals working together. Isn't that great, Heidi?
yes, that's wonderful.
I think it's really cool.
That's
So
wonderful.
I've got a link to that in the show notes at johnandheidishow.com. Time to say goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, Heidi.
Goodbye, everybody. Have a great Easter weekend. Thank you so much for listening to the John and Heidi Show this weekend.